dinner. I'm like, yeah, because I'm really going to come home and do some work, right? Like, let's get through it. So I'll just take the bike then. And I'm like, my bike would really more than anything. The cab up to Algonquin in the morning. What am I going to do? Talk to me. You know, the cab driver's asking me. The cab driver, the first thing he says to me is, the CBC is not anymore. Someone had put a monkey wrench into someone's thing. What's a monkey wrench? There's a good one to try to answer a definition that someone in English is not their first language. What's a monkey wrench?
Okay, might as well get it going then.
Well, so what do you think I do on my BlackBerry, right? 'Cause I'm in the back.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wanted to give everyone a chance to get up here, but I think we should get started so we keep on schedule. My name is Gary Hilson. I'm the O3 Community Manager at Orion, and for the past 3 years I've been responsible for the initial development and the ongoing management of our collaboration service, which is powered by the Igloo platform. The focus of today's panel is on how members of the Orion community are using the service, what the benefits are for them, and how they are fostering a culture of collaboration that leverages a Web 2.0 environment rather than perhaps the more traditional tools that people are used to using, such as spreading email documents around. We launched O3 Collaboration formally back 18 months ago. And since that launch, we have grown to have more than 100 collaborative groups using the service. And it's particularly popular with research and education groups that have stakeholders spread across institutions. So they may be based at one institution, but they have research partners, contributors at various levels of university or college or even in the community who need to be a part of the community for the project to move forward. O3 Collaboration is both an information portal that we've set up, but the big value add that has been popular is the ability to set up these private collaboration spaces. And each of those spaces, I'll just bring it up on the screen here, has a number of built-in tools automatically set up for you to take advantage of. And that includes a blogging tool, a calendar tool, document sharing, forums, the discussion forums that have been on the internet for a very long time, image gallery, and a wiki tool. And of course, most of you are probably familiar with wikis through your exposure to Wikipedia. And each space comes with a default layout and template that really allows our members to get going quite quickly to organize a private group space with a landing area that displays their content. And it's fairly intuitive for most people to get on and using it. You don't have to be too IT savvy to get started. And there's a very easy to learn widget powered or widget-based tool that allows you to drag and drop elements. And one of the things that is particularly useful for a number of our users is not just the tools that are built into the platform itself that I outlined here, but also that you can actually highlight or bring in content from outside sources. So if you have a YouTube channel, you can actually display your YouTube videos. You can embed them into your space. A number of our groups do that. You can also highlight your Twitter feed, for those of you who find that Twitter is useful, as well as often we have groups that already have a blog set up, so they don't want to be posting twice to the blog tool here, so they're able to import headlines from their existing blog. So there's all these Web 2.0 tools that people are already using, Flickrs and other, that they can actually, instead of recreating it here in O3, they can actually bring it in and build pages around it. So they can create new content here and bring in existing content from other sources. We provide these spaces to our Orion Connected members at no cost. It is a value-added service benefit of being at an Orion Connected institution. And for those of you who are wondering, all of the universities in Ontario are members of Orion, and we have all but 2 of the colleges, I believe, at this point. And if you're curious and you're wondering if you're connected, you can see me after the presentation. We're also, Orion has added quite a few school boards in the last few years, and we do have some groups from that K-12 sector who are using this particularly for planning committees that stretch across a board or even crossed a board, different boards. One of the groups we have getting started right now is 7 regional groups responsible for preparing education curriculum for the War of 1812 bicentennial, which is fast approaching. But what these people wanted to do is be able to pull together all sorts of information and resources to help teachers teach about the War of 1812 in an interesting manner and break down some silos so that if there's a regional group in one area, such as Niagara region, doing something interesting that might apply in Kingston area, they can learn for each other. So that's an example of a widespread group at a K-12 level. This afternoon, you'll be hearing from 3 panelists who are running O3 collaboration spaces at the post-secondary level. And I won't spend a lot of time introducing them. I will let them talk about who they are and how they use O3. Certainly appreciate them taking the time to join us. And as well, we have someone from Igloo Software who will be able to speak to some of the issues raised in our during our first set of speakers, as well as talk about a little bit about the future of the Igloo platform on which O3 runs, as well as some bigger picture trends as well in collaboration. So as I mentioned, I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through on a detailed basis on the tool set. If any of you are interested in learning more, I'm going to be here for the rest of the afternoon and all day tomorrow. Happy to speak with you if you have more questions, and we can even schedule something after the conference if you like, either in person or online. We can do a little tour. So our panelists today are David Phipps, Director of Research Services and Knowledge Exchange at York University, Vanessa Williamson, Executive Director of CONII, and Debbie McKee-Demchek, Director of Office of Research Services and Innovation at Durham College. Now, you'll note we have a fairly small group here. If you're interested, we do have the URL for our little meet today, and I'll pop that up one more time if anyone's interested in having a look at that URL and asking questions. But as we have a very small group, we're going to have a Q&A session after our panelists and our guest speaker from Igloo. And we'll keep it real informal and interactive, I hope. So without further ado, I'd like to present David. I'd like to present David Phipps. David is with York University, and York has been one of our early adopters of O3 collaboration. And David has spoken in the past about O3 and has learned a lot, I think, about what makes these communities work and some of the tips. So hopefully you all benefit from his experience. So without further ado, David Phipps.
Thanks, Gary. Gary and I first met on the telephone 2007, 8, something like that. And I phoned Gary up, and because we were thinking of this awesome idea that we were going to apply to CFI for some funds to develop a collaboration platform, an online collaboration platform, bring us a lot of suite of tools together. And someone connected us, and Gary said, well, why bother building it? Let's take a look at this. And that was before the full rollout had happened. So I drank the Kool-Aid really early. And I'm going to talk about hooking up online. So the real question is, can online dating work for research? So so there's an awesome YouTube video called Social Media Revolution. Just put Social Media Revolution into YouTube. It's about 5 minutes long, but it's really, really cool. It's got a lot of stats around the growth of social media. Things like, stats that you've heard a lot, something like Facebook, if it was a country, would be the 4th largest country in the world. Those sorts of stats about the growth of social media. Again, nothing flooring until you see it all together in one thing. And one of the slides says, 1 out of 8 couples married in the US last year met via social media. So my question is, if it works for love, can it also work for research? And there's absolutely no structure to this. This is not a research question. We are digging into why, especially on Twitter, why people follow us and why we follow people. So we're trying to embed some research into this question. But let me tell you how we're addressing this question about research and relationships. I am the Director of Research Services at York University, and one of the services that we provide is a knowledge mobilization service. And essentially, knowledge mobilization is bringing researchers and graduate students together with non-academic decision makers outside of the technology sphere. So it's kind of like tech transfer, but for policy and for public policy and for professional practice. So it's more like industry liaison. So rather than tech transfer, which is a push element, and we've got some elements of producer push, we actually go into the community and say, what are you looking for? We do a user poll model, and that's kind of a bit more like industry liaison. I'm using these words because I think the Orion community might understand those services a bit more. We bring people together in a knowledge exchange environment. Around the outsides, you see some of our services, but the whole idea of knowledge mobilization is to encourage people to work together in a co-production method, as in research partnerships or community-based research. And I've split out community-based research because there's certain unique ideologies that embed around community-based research. But at the end of the day, this is a dating service. This is finding ways to match up researchers with organizations outside the university who might be able to use it. So if this is a dating service, we can start to ask this question. What happened if social media works for love, can it also work for research? That's actually not a hypothesis, that's a question. So this is a little bit about what we do. We've been running this for about 5 years, a little more than 5 years, and we've done a lot of stuff. And this is not impact stuff, this is just activity measures, but I've highlighted some of the social media plays that we've got. We've got 158 members on O3, which is, Gary told me York University has about 200 members in O3, which represents about 15 communities. And so we've got a lot of them, but like typical with any social media platform, a lot of people sign up and very few people continue to play. So of our 158, I would say about 20 or 30 are regularly active, and probably within the staff of the Knowledge Mobilization Unit there and some across the country, because there are 5 other universities that have joined this Research Impact Network, there's probably about a dozen of us that are very active, using it absolutely every day. We've got a lot of tweets, we've got a lot of followers, we are into delicious bookmarks, we've got blogs, and so we've got a lot of social media plays out there, and the nice thing about O3 is it really brings a lot of that together where we can transact a lot of the business. So this is locating you within our work. And there's my face, and this is, I'm going to shut up because I can talk much better than I can. And this is how we use O3. I represent Research Impact, which is Canada's emerging knowledge mobilization network. We've been using O3 for about a year. We use it in 2 different ways. We use it internally within the York Knowledge Mobilization Unit, where we pretty much avoided email. We no longer exchange emails. We use the Oops. Okay. Well.
We no longer exchange emails. We use the message system within O3, and we no longer share documents back and forth. We post documents within O3. So that's one way that we've been able to reduce our email burden within the staff of the Knowledge Mobilization Unit. The other way that we use O3 is within projects, within knowledge mobilization and research projects. An example of this is a project where we brought together the United Ways and the universities of the Research Impact Network coming from St. John's, Montreal, from York, Guelph, Saskatchewan, and Victoria, brought them all together for a 2-day meeting, but we managed that entire meeting, the roll up to that meeting for about 2 or 3 months, exclusively in O3. So we blogged about what was going to be happening, we shared documents within O3, we were able to choose where we were going to go for dinner using a forum, a discussion forum within O3. All of that saved emails. The only emails we used were to group emails saying a new document has been posted at. So it's reduced our volume, it's increased our getting to know you time, and by the time we all got together for that 2-day meeting, we were able to hit the ground running because the community had already been established online before we got to see each other face to face.
And that email, needing to send out an email to say, hey, there's a new document posted, we don't need to do that anymore because the broadcast feature has been released within the O3 community. Then that was a huge improvement. So thank you for that. So that's how we use it. And this is what we're saying about it. We actually like it. We've got 2 very active communities that we support. One, Mobilizing Minds, is a $1.5 million young adult mental health project where we've got about 6 universities, about a dozen community organizations, and 10 or 12 young adult leaders from across the country, all who are collaborating around a project to find out how academic research can inform decision aids for young adults who are seeking information about managing their own mental health. And so, it's a 5-year project, and clearly social media tools are one of the tools that they are looking to use. However, that's the tools they will eventually deliver. O3 is being used to manage the project, and it's a project that stretches from Trent University to the University of Manitoba, with 2 universities in Manitoba and about 4 in Ontario. And then we've got community organizations in Manitoba and in the GTA. So a distributed group hosted at York University, and we rolled, and this is the way we like to support our communities, we roll them out first as a project group within the Research Impact O3 community, let them start playing, and so we set them up in secure groups, and then if they do hit the ground and they really connect, then we try and roll them out, we introduce them to Gary and roll them out into their own community. So we no longer have to keep them as part of the Research Impact group. And the Research Impact team at York University, as part of the Knowledge Mobilization Unit in the Office of Research Services, is now actively supporting and coaching faculty members who are looking to get on O3. So we work closely with Gary Hilson on that. And then, so Mobilizing Minds and some of the Research Impact staff said all these fabulous things about O3. They also had some helpful comments that I'll pass on to Gary about things that they'd like to see to improve it. But basically, the 2 groups, the Research Impact Group and the Mobilizing Minds Group, have really taken to O3 in a very supportive way. So we actually got a little bit of funding last year from the Canadian Institutes of Health Research to ask the question, can O3, or can social media, and using O3 as a tool for that, actually broker relationships? Because one thing, the way we use it, as I mentioned in the video clip, is more to support our own community of practice, of knowledge brokers. But we asked the question because our job is to bring researchers and decision makers together. Can we actually do this just in O3? So we got a little bit of money, and we did a project. We partnered with CONII and Child Family Services of York Region, and with the Children's Aid Society of York Region, and researchers at the Lamarche Center and it's got a new name now. Wendy, what's Lamarche's new name? Can you remember? It's for Child and Family something or other. And it used to be for violence prevention. It's now for child and family something. And so we threw a bit of money at this, and Gary was involved in helping support it. And this is what they said about it. Project Teen Mums was a knowledge mobilization project supported by the Canadian Institutes of Health Research. This project brought together York University researchers from the Lamarche Center for Child and Youth Research and graduate students from the Psychology Department, along with frontline workers from the York Region Children's Aid Society and staff from CONII Child and Family Services. The group used O3, an online collaborative platform featuring social media tools. O3 is hosted by ORION, the Ontario Research and Innovation Optical Network. Project participants use the space to share resources, have online discussions, and exchange information.
one of the challenges would be time. So, you know, everyone's busy and kind of finding the time to connect, and in my experience, you know, it's easy to forget, you know, to check the website and to connect with people.
Certain people may not be familiar with social media and may find using the platforms a bit more difficult. I think that as with every technology that has come our way, use provides familiarity. So there would have to be, I think, on some people's part, a real attempt to use it on a regular basis.
So as a graduate student, I guess, from an academic perspective, it really helps you see the other side of it where this research is being applied. So first of all, kind of seeing all our work being applied, but also hearing the other perspectives. So from the frontline workers, you know, opening our eyes to, you know, the real experiences and what this population is going through.
It's really easy to kind of feel isolated working in a university environment, and before this I really hadn't had any connection with a lot of community workers, and so through using O3 I was able to understand what their concerns are, what their interests are, what they'd like to know more about, and that way I was really able to ground my research in the concerns of the community.
Well, I think the major benefit is that it really breaks down the barriers between these two different communities, so you have people with shared interests in research and practice where they can find a place now to come together and really discuss their ideas on what they care about most.
So, you know, in the future when I become a practitioner, you know, I want to do a little bit of both, and kind of feeling that community connection would be great in keeping up to date with what's going on in the research area and what other professionals in the practice field are experiencing would be, I think, really beneficial to kind of keep up to date and connect with others and know what's going on. So
really just to get ideas for research, to speak to community members, to find out you know, what are some gaps. I think it's one thing to read the research and to say, okay, well, other researchers haven't done this, but what do community workers feel they need more information on? What are they looking for? How can my research be of most benefit to people?
Here at York CIS, I am pretty responsible for knowledge dissemination, for disseminating information on evidence-based and evidence-informed practice, and I see that this would be an excellent platform for getting information out to the staff here about the so-called latest and greatest about what's happening in our field, in the various areas of our field, and how staff might be able to use it.
The project team answered a survey and participated in a focus group to evaluate their experiences using social media tools. We found there to be more benefits than challenges in using O3 as a way to exchange knowledge and interact. Some of the challenges could be overcome with time and training. In conclusion, social media tools are useful to promote collaboration and knowledge mobilization between research and practice. So my last slide really is to follow up on what have we learned around some of this. And I'm going to ask, Wendy Winters is at York University. You are managing a major collaborative research initiative funded by the Social Science Humanities Research Council. It's a 5-year, $2.5 million project, 7-year, $2.5 million project called So it's looking at long-term residential care, and you've set up an O3 site. So, and fairly recently, actually, because you got, you really started on this a few months ago. Is that right?
Well, we started in, well, the funding was granted April 1st, 2020. So in order to get up and running quickly and connect the researchers, it's international. In Canada, US, and European countries, including the UK, Northern Europe. And we wanted to get something quickly up and running, rather than a public website, et cetera, how to connect the researchers. So I had actually noticed York had sent out something a year or two before that demonstrating was free, come and take a look. And I kept that email for a year and a half and decided that this might work. So we went to Krista and said, can you show us?
Krista is a staff member in the Knowledge Mobilization Unit.
And so luckily, even though my PI does not use it and has not been on it yet, she's behind it. So we had it set up and we use it as an internal research platform. Our community, our public website's not up yet. So we knew that was going to happen, that it takes a long time. The students doing it, it's going to take a long time. So this provided us with an immediate, something that was immediately up and running. And it's been a struggle to involve the researchers. But because the PI is behind it, this is what, and her take is this is what we're going to use, no questions asked. There's no option for opting out. So, and it was, one thing I really appreciated was the ability that's been within the last couple of months to sign to fill out myself, rather than invite them and have them log on, because for us, it wasn't an option. Opting out was not an option. Everybody's in. So that really helped me, because a lot of the researchers really, if they can log in and figure out how to get to the document section and find documents, we're doing well. So and the other thing it's useful for is we have new students coming on the project all the time. So in all the countries, and they're much they're quicker with it than the other researchers, in general. And all the back documents are there. They can get minutes from meetings. They can get everything that it's mostly right now. We're not using it for data yet. It will be, and we will have protected areas once we get the data out there. But right now, it's mainly the document, the minutes for meetings, the decision documents, etc., are all posted there, and the students can go in and bring themselves up to speed very quickly.
So what you're doing is you're not emailing, you're using the system.
We're trying to get more and more into using the system.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to me and says, please send me the agenda for tomorrow's meeting, I'll say, go to Facebook.
And that's been our experience as well, is that there is a barrier. It's a new way of working, a new way of thinking. I've divided my world into researchers and staff or collaborators, and like Wendy's project, staff or collaborators, just do it. You don't have a choice. Don't email them and give them a choice. Just do it. You have to take the plunge. But for researchers, we can't force researchers outside of a project, a faculty-led project like Wendy's talking about. So the way that we've talked, we work with researchers is we identify a community champion. It's not always a young person. Sometimes it is, and we've got we've got a number of parameters that we're following our communities on, just to see which communities are successful and trying to understand some of the parameters. But the big thing is support. Just give them a lot of hand-holding, support your communities, find a champion and train him or her on being the community support. So that's what we have found. But for staff or collaborators, just do it. Don't give them an option. Just do it. Thank you. Take questions at the end?
Yeah, we'll take questions at the end.
All right. Okay, I'm really glad now I asked to go after David, because I think ours is a little bit different what you're going to hear, because we're a little more in the developmental stage. I'm from CONII, and CONII is the Colleges Ontario Network for Industry Innovation, for those of you who are wondering what that crazy acronym stood for. Anyways, what we are is we're a network of, well, I guess our tagline here, we're here to help Ontario-based businesses become more competitive in the global economy by engaging college-applied research to advance the development of their products and services. And how do we do that? Well, we're a network of 20 colleges spread out across Ontario. CONII started about 4 years ago as a network of 10 colleges. It's now expanded to be 20. Used to be in the GTA region mainly, but across the 401 corridor, if you want to call it that, though we stretch off a little bit. And now we've got much larger geographical presence. We go up into Timmins we're heading into, we're up in North Bay, we're heading into we're in Sudbury, we're down in Niagara, we're in Windsor, we're in the GTA. So with the expansion, it's caused a lot of communication challenges for people. We're province-wide resources, and we're funded by the Ministry of Research and Innovation. So in terms of our project, we're actually a $10.2 million project for the next 3 years. So there's a lot of expectations on us to deliver a lot of things to help business, and we need a way to work together. And the last bullet here that I've put down is that we're growing and evolving, and I think that that's key. I'm going to say we are not maximizing our use of O3. One of the things that we need to do is use it. I think we're getting a really positive response from its capabilities, but I don't think we're maximizing it nearly the way we can. And David's last bullet was the key. We don't just do it. I just sort of do it, and then I send an email just in case you don't want to check. So we got to stop doing that. So I put up our members here just to see. So I'm going to go right into some of the challenges that we're faced here. Again, it's 20 colleges. We've got geography challenges. We also have division challenges, I call it, within the college system, in that we're dealing with the research offices, and Debbie's here from one of our members' college, Durham College, so we deal with them, but we also have financial aspects. We have reporting aspects. And again, between each of the colleges, there may be better communication in some than others, but we don't always know who to access, who we should be sending this information to. So this system allows people to access the information that they need to access, and it gives it all out there rather than putting the strain on some of us for making sure we know who's there. The colleges don't have to update their contacts all the time. The responsibility lays with each of our stakeholders, which are the 20 colleges, to help us get the job done. I say we have a variable capacity and development. Some people probably misread it that way. I think it actually says level of development. What I mean there is that some of the colleges have been functioning for less than a year in their applied research departments. They don't have developed forms. They don't have best practices as honed as some of the other colleges are. So it can cause some tension. So this can be a mechanism for us to be able to share and help get everyone to excel. We run a lean central administration. There's only 2 of us within our central office running a $10.2 million project with 20 colleges, a bunch of external stakeholders, member of the New Ontario Network of Excellence. You may not want your email boxes bombarded, and we also don't have time to do it. So this helps us really, as we grow, this is critical. Email overload, I don't even have to say what that means. So what are the needs for our members? And I said this is sort of some of the initial needs. We need current information for them. They need to always know what's right. From our external stakeholders, things are consistently changing. We need to change with them on a dime and more than people probably like. And we want to make sure that you don't get lost in all your emails and your folders into the wrong revisions. You don't have to repeat everything. So we need to have a place that everyone's able to access the same and current information. Again, contacts as well, same sort of thing. People change within the college system. So you know who you should be talking to. We need, I'm calling it a restricted access, and for us it's a major feature of O3. CONII is a project, but we're actually incorporated as a not-for-corporate or a not-for-profit. So we also have corporate governance. So we've got parts that fall into our corporate governance thing, we have parts that fall into our members category, and we need to be able to keep the information restricted to who needs to access it. So having the ability within O3 to actually limit who can get into these things, but having a main page that lets everyone know what's going on and what's important and what we're about, and keeping the whole project aligned is absolutely critical. And as well, we have external committees. We have a lot of industry representation, and they don't need to get into the operational. Some of the members we don't need into the governance, but that's one of the critical parts of us. And we need something that's easy to use. I'm going to reference some of the things that you said. We need something that any members can post on, that everyone can play with. There can be resistance here by some people because it's a new system. If I can work it, anyone can work it. And we'll just stop there. So what have we done with O3? Well, we actually implemented our system around the summer of 2010. It's my understanding that O3 had just gone through a bit of a second phase or a third phase or something just as we were coming in. So I think I haven't heard some of the features that David talked about. You mentioned the broadcast. They had just come in when we started. So we came in at a good time. Again, our initial goals, we needed to access current information. We needed to decrease email traffic. I was getting so many complaints about email traffic, as well as really what's current, what's happening. You're not recalling information, but you're sending updates. We had some scheduling issues. We've got 20 members. We've got colleges trying to have applied research events, and they're doing them on the same day. But they want everyone else to come. We needed to increase communication between the members and sharing to help develop our colleges, help them get up to speed, and help everyone learn from each other. And we really needed to increase the collaboration around the network, because from my understanding, and this is before me, I've only come in since we've expanded to 20 colleges, the first 10 colleges used to get together monthly. They worked in smaller groups because they were more localized. There was a lot of FaceTime, so they didn't feel some of these challenges of not being close. So they instantly felt that there was a collaboration, and I guess when the new ones came in, some of them felt they didn't get that feeling that existed before, and I think a lot of the older ones probably thought that they had lost a little bit of what they had in the past. And the reason that we didn't bring everyone together face to face was cost factors and other things, so rather than addressing it, it just kind of went by the wayside for a while. So this was a good way to really pull people back together. Like I said, it's still in its evolutionary stage, but it's absolutely become a critical component, even at its most basic level that we're using it right now, and we need to advance it. So again, we're using the calendar feature is really important for us for deadlines, but also understanding what's going on in the entire stakeholder community. We're using it as a document repository. Again, pretty basic, but we're able to make sure current things are up there. And our rule is check O3 before you submit anything. Just make sure you're on the right forms. We enjoy the community news in some of the other sections. We use this for our central office updates to let people know what's going on. We try to broadcast these out. I follow up with emails, but I vow almost after this session that I'm just going to stop tomorrow. And we try to post project opportunities there. We've created all these restricted areas that we need, and we maximize the broadcast feature. I find it's good. I think where it benefits us is it comes as a broadcast from CONII or from Igloo. I can't think what it is because I send them, so I don't really read them. But it doesn't come from my name and my email address, so people are able to distinguish what sort of content is within things. So just a couple, I'm going to wrap it up with just some going forward comments about what we need to do, I think, to maximize O3, because, again, a little slightly different presentation because we're not using it to its full potential, but definitely think it's a critical component here. We need to increase the utilization. I took some notes of pretty basic things, but sometimes you just got to get back to basics about how to engage your stakeholders and your staff. And the good thing about my network is that I can make everyone use it. We need to have increased college engagement and awareness of this. We need to make the members post. Currently, unfortunately, it's a great benefit that you can post about your research day, but everyone right now is sending it to us. So there's not a lot of personality within it. There's only 2 people's faces who show up on the page every day, and I need to have more faces. And we need to make sure that this really is the go-to point for information. Again, we're following up with emails. One of the ways we want to do it is actually, the discussion forums are great for us, and one of the ideas that was brought forward is to have our stakeholders responsible for every week starting a discussion. We've got 20 of them. That's only 2 discussions, only 2 questions or 2 ideas you need to come up with in a year. I hope that most colleges should be able to do that, spread out the joy between their offices. So start a discussion forum that it could be of interest to any of the members there and get some contribution to encourage collaboration as well as just using the system. And again, this idea was brought up months ago, but now yet again I'm going to say we're going to do it. And we want to try to also maximize the wiki feature. We haven't used it up till now, but it's something that some of our external groups have suggested would probably be really beneficial for them. So we need to step up and try these things. So I'm very open to talking to anyone who actually uses this site a little better than we do, and I think we're at the point that we've got people seeing the value in it, and now we need to really up the value and make sure that they're fully engaged and used it. So, thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Debbie McKee-Demchick, and I am from Durham College. Just to give you a little bit of background in terms of who I am, I'm with the Office of Research Services and Innovation at the college. We are comprised of three very distinct functions within our team. We are applied research, as well as institutional research, which looks at our program quality and making our programs the best that they can be. And we're also responsible for new program development based on labor market needs. We are a member of CONII, which you've just heard lots about from Vanessa. We receive some funding from NSERC as well as the Ontario Centres of Excellence. And we're also developing the pilot project through FedDev, the ARC program, or the Applied Research and Commercialization program. And we're also developing a technology incubator center on our Whitby campus, which you'll hear more about in a moment. And that's an initiative that is in partnership with University of Ontario Institute of Technology, as well as the DSEA, which is the Durham Strategic Energy Alliance. So how did we get introduced to O3? Well, initially, we became familiar with O3 as a user, and that was through the CONII network that Vanessa has spoken about. About a year ago, I met Gary at the OCE Discovery Conference, and as those of you who know Gary will know, he's very passionate about O3 and about bringing on new communities, and so we entered into a discussion about what that might look like. And shortly thereafter, we had Gary come out to our college and invited our research office and some faculty to come out and hear Gary and to really start to understand what the features might look like, and really got us thinking about what this might look like. So fast forward to the beginning of 2011. I'm working now on 3 different O3 projects that are all very much in their infancy, in the development stages. But I'll describe what those 3 projects are to you, and it may give you some ideas of your own. One is a College Research Ethics Board workspace, which I'm going to show you our website and give you a little bit of background in terms of what that looks like, as well as the incubator. That's the technology incubator in partnership with DSEA and UOIT that I mentioned. And we have just embarked on a 3rd O3 site, which is the College Sustainable Building Consortium. And I've got some snapshots of our home pages of the 3 websites, and then, as I said, I'll walk you through the ethics one. The College Research Ethics Board workspace is a result of a subcommittee that I'm involved in, which is a Colleges Ontario subcommittee on research ethics boards. And essentially its purpose is to support college research ethics boards. This is a committee that was formed in late 2010, and as we were thinking about what our mandate ought to be, it was important to us that we reach out to the 24 Ontario colleges and understand what their needs were. So we launched a survey and asked them to identify to us what their training or what their needs were as a research ethics board. And those needs translated into our priorities as a subcommittee. Probably not surprisingly, one of the top needs that our research ethics boards identified was around communication. They were very much interested in an opportunity to talk to each other over the internet, to be able to share documents. What does a research ethics application form look like, and could we look at sharing those sorts of documents, and a document repository, and just learning and understanding, especially with the new Tri-Council policy was about to be announced. There was a real interest in talking to one another. And so, having just spoken with Gary, we knew that O3 was the way that we wanted to go about doing that. As an aside, one of the second priorities that survey illustrated to us was a need for some professional development amongst our research ethics boards. So we're also planning a PD event which will be taking place in June, and at that event we will be officially launching this O3 site to all 24 colleges and their research ethics boards, and at that point we'll have mass adoption, I'm sure. The incubator is a project, as I said, in partnership with the DSEA and UOIT. We are all physically in very close proximity. We get a lot of FaceTime. We're in a number of meetings. So our primary need here was around document repository. So at this point in time, this O3 site is primarily serving that function. And our third project, the College Sustainable Building Consortium, is a new consortium involving Durham College and 3 other colleges across Canada. One is in British Columbia, one is in Alberta, and one is in Nova Scotia. And the presidents of those 4 colleges decided that it would be useful and interesting to look at different ways in which we could collaborate. So we're looking at things like, are there applied research projects that we could collaborate on? Could we collaborate on curriculum, on new program development? And of course, as you can tell by the title, the major theme that brings the 4 colleges together is sustainable buildings. So that's the primary goal that we're looking at. So, as I said, we are very much in our infancy. So I'm very much at the grassroots level right now in terms of what a site should look like. But I thought you might find it interesting to have a look at an O3 site and see what one user has done with it. So this is our homepage for our College Research Ethics Board space. We have just simply added some recent activity and a calendar on the home page, but all of these pieces that you see across this row are hyperlinks to different pages. So we have a calendar where we show our users various events. This one that you see on June 1st is our PD event that I mentioned that we're developing on our own. The great thing is that you can export this to your own calendar. Very easy to add an event by clicking this button right here. We have a discussion forum that we haven't started using yet, but I'm sure after we have that mass adoption after June 1st, we'll see lots of discussions happening. Under resources, we're starting to build ourselves a little bit of a library. So various documents that research ethics boards might be interested in, we have posted here. We also created our own quick start user guide, if anyone's interested in that. But I know Gary has one as well. We've got another spot where we'll be including our tools and templates. So as a college wants to post their annual reporting forms, for instance, or what does informed consent look like in different scenarios, then we'll post those as well. The subcommittee documents is the one that we're using most right now, and that's where we're placing our agendas and meeting notes and so on. We've also got links to various sites that an REB would be interested in. And I always find this neat. Everyone who's a member is identified here, and it's so easy to just send a message to someone by clicking on that hyperlink. We don't have to remember email addresses. It's great. So that's a very quick tour of one site. So we had Gary out to our college about 3 weeks ago, because we are actually quite excited about what O3 can do for us. And it got us thinking about, well, what else could we do with O3? So one of the things that we've been talking about at our college is program advisory committees. And as someone indicated earlier, situations where you're working with external stakeholders is the perfect scenario for using O3. And program advisory committees are comprised of industry members who provide advice to the college on how to make our program the best that can be. We're also looking at some internal college committees where we don't have the internal infrastructure to do this sort of thing ourselves. And now that we know how simple and easy it is, we're very much looking at other opportunities. Also looking at other cross-college committees like the Research Ethics Board project. And as well as our applied research agenda continues, we'll be looking at other projects that are industry-led where we can involve some industry partners in websites as well. So some of the benefits from the perspective of a very recent adoptee, it truly is easy to use. Vanessa indicated if she can do it, anyone can. I agree. I am not a techie. It's not difficult, and Gary is a phone call or an email away, and he's always fast and very, very helpful. It's private. One of the concerns that we've experienced with other mechanisms that are out there is that they may not be secure, they may not be private. You have to invite members to join, so that gives us a lot of peace of mind. Google Docs is something that sometimes people use, so we've tried to encourage them to look this way. Less dependence on email. I think that's a biggie. I don't know about you, but I get messages quite often saying my inbox is full, so if I could reduce the number of emails with big attachments, that's a big bonus for me and I think for a lot of people. Version control, Vanessa's very good at telling us the latest version of a CONII form is on the website. And the ability to broadcast, I can't say enough about that. Anytime I have something that I put on the O3 site that's new, that broadcast button is just a click away and folks know. Some of the keys to success in my view, you need to have a clear purpose and it needs to be understood by all your team members. If it's a document repository, then make that known and make sure people are using it. If it's for discussion purposes, just do it, stop sending the emails, use the O3 site. I think you really need a champion. You need somebody who's going to keep us on the right track. This is a culture shift, and we need to be reminded that we've got this tool. The site that I just walked you through is the most developed of our three, and I found myself recently in a situation with that very same group that just developed this, of emailing a document back and forth. And I suddenly had to say, remember we have this O3 site to do this? So you really need to think about it. The culture shift is not an easy one at first. I think you have to keep the content up to date, and you have to keep bringing people back to the site until it becomes second nature. Thank you.
So I'd like to thank our O3 user panelists for sharing their experiences using O3, and I think it's interesting to hear the early adopter and groups that are a little further along and not as far along, and some of the lessons they've learned. We have about 15 minutes left, so I'd like to hand it over to Daniel Cube from Igloo Software. He's going to talk a lot about where the platform's going. We partnered with Igloo to deliver this service, and it's been a great fit because the platform is regularly evolved and updated, and again allows people to put in content from outside sources. So Daniel's going to speak for about 10 minutes on where the Igloo platform's going and what you might see in O3 down the road, and then hopefully we'll still have a few time for a few questions.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. Who are O3 users in the room, and who are new to the concept of collaboration leveraging the Igloo or O3 platform? Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about where we see the space going, and to give you a bit of background for those who don't know about us. We actually started off our lives, I don't know if most of you know this, as a research organization ourselves. We were spun out of CG, which is the Center for Research, our governance innovation now in Kitchener-Waterloo. And we received some money from MRI to actually commercialize the platform. And so as a result, we were spun out of the research think tank in 2008, and since then have been a for-profit entity. So our largest shareholder is an NGO focused on global research, and we started off with 35,000 global researchers in about 35 different countries. And the common complaint from all these researchers was, this is a really great program, but email is a terrible way to collaborate and build knowledge. And it happened that Jim Basile was actually the chairman of CG at the time on the advisory panel, and Jim, being a technologist, said, well, let's build something. So that was the whole genesis of Igloo. So your sweet spot and where you're working and a lot of the common challenges you see every day was the reason why Igloo was created. And since then, we've been a really successful for-profit entity, but at the same time, we continue like to give back to our roots. So we still do a lot in the NGO world, but when you really boil it, what we're really good at is helping mission-driven organizations achieve their mission and goals, be it research or be it corporations. If organizations don't understand what their mission is and what they're trying to achieve, generally they flounder and have issues. So I'll talk a bit later about this social media playbook or enterprise playbook that we discuss and how to launch your communities and make them successful. But it's always trying to understand, what are you trying to impact or change when you build anything or do anything with the community, or even, you know, day to day. And so we keep going back to that, and then trying to understand how can we measure that. And these key simple things really are common sense, but they have a huge impact on the outcomes of your organization and your success leveraging tools like ours, or even just day-to-day business. So since we started in 2008, we're now up about 2,600 global communities all over the world, every major continent with the exception of Antarctica. We're trying to get on the research station there, but we haven't been successful yet. But yeah, we're doing really, really well. Last year we doubled, we're hoping to over double this year. And we've really seen a huge growth in the area around knowledge workers. We do really well in industries where people are trying to share information, capture information and knowledge, and disseminate it. And also, as mentioned, privacy and governance are increasingly rearing their head, especially with social platforms and tools. So our platform's super secure, you can lock it down as much as you want. And also, the nice thing about sending an email link versus an attachment, it's way more secure. Right? Because someone has to come back to the community to get access to that asset. When you send out an asset in an attachment, I mean, it can be shared with millions immediately, right? So there's lots of things you can do. So where we see, I mean, the internet has changed everything. This is a great slide. You put .com behind anything, you know, 10 years ago and you're, you know, multi-millionaire. But we're seeing something that we believe will have the same impact, especially on business and research moving forward. We see some convergence of some major things. We're basically seeing how organizations want to eliminate the dependence on IT to get things done in the organization. We're seeing that people want to do things wirelessly and in the cloud without having to sustain infrastructure. And they're also seeing a shift to tablets. So we believe this is having a massive impact, and we've sort of seen it with some of our bleeding edge customers in areas where we see a lot of funding, like financial services, for example. I was speaking at an event about 10 months ago in New York, and I'd say 95% of the audience had an iPad, and they were taking notes on their iPad. The form factor of a tablet now is way more conducive to doing business. So smartphones were a simple step in the evolution of being able to enable your enterprise. But the form factor now has changed dramatically, where you can get lots of things done on a tablet, whereas that was almost impossible on a smartphone. So one of the cool things about applications in the cloud, or like O3, is we've already been W3C compliant. We're used to working in browsers and giving you secure access to the things you're trying to work on a day-to-day basis. So now you don't have to worry about logging into your secure laptop. You can be at home on your Facebook and go to a different browser session, and you're in your community working on work or collaborating internationally. So it's really changing the way we see business going. This is a recent study on iPad, and we actually believe Android's going to ultimately win this, but iPad has a great start as to what's going on. Jim Basili's still the chairman of our board, so I have to say Playbook's great too, but we'll see. But at the same time, if you look at the activities that are going on these tablets, most of them are business day-to-day activities that you used to do on your laptop. Right? I still hate the touch typing on a flat screen, but it's only going to get better, right? And it was just like the first phones, how kludgy they were and how intuitive. So, I mean, we're just going to see the way that changes people, basically mobile office on your couch. I mean, it's great, and we love it. So, going back to these common themes, so no local storage. So you're no longer going to be saving things on your laptop. You're going to be saving them in the community in your cloud, and there'll be utilities to help you do that. And we're also seeing a reduced dependence on email, because as mentioned, these communities are capturing and harvesting the knowledge. And one of the big challenges when anyone does research, the big challenge with research is someone works on a great paper, but the context to that paper is normally in an email, right? So what happens when you get that email? The file's shared in one place on your whatever shared drive, and the email goes and gets archived. So the context about that great, amazing thing is lost. One of the powers of community and social tools is it ties that knowledge with the asset together, and it's long-lived. So if you're commenting, for example, with the O3 platform, that knowledge thread stays with the asset for the life of the asset should you enable it. It becomes fully searchable, archivable, all those sort of great things from a governance perspective. So this is where we sort of see the world going. It's no longer going to be hierarchical. It's going to be basically the networked enterprise. You're going to find people and build global teams almost instantly. by finding skill sets and saying, hey, basically poking someone, hey, do you want to work on this program? Or can you help me with this solution? As opposed to having to go to someone's manager and talk to them. It's going to change the way we do business, especially when people are beginning to work more at home. I mean, my work week has gotten longer. I think everyone's has, because it's a blessing and a curse having mobility, right? But at the same time, I like the fact that I can take 2 hours off during the day and make that 2 hours up at home and still be as productive as I would in the office, right? But that does change the nature of the way you do business. So this is some of the predictions that we see from the major analysts, Gartner, Forrester, and IDC, and these guys are sort of the big wigs when it comes to enterprise. The first one's crazy. 20% of organizations will own no IT assets. That means no central servers. Basically, everyone will just have internet access and do everything in the cloud. I mean, you say that 10 years ago, people would just laugh. I mean, we're almost living it in our enterprise right now today. We outsource our email. We basically live in the cloud in our community with an Igloo. And we also see for about 20% of organizations, social networking will replace email. And that will grow as the different demographics change. I'm a boomer. I still live in email. I love email. It's the way I interact, but I do more in the community since I've joined Igloo. It's crazy how it actually changes the way you work because it's more efficient to do it that way. And that's how I've learned to do it. And then the mobile penetration rate globally is just continually going up. Canada's way ahead of the curve in mobile penetration, but you'll see the rest of the world catch up as well. And I mean, I can send you this deck if you're interested. So this is where we see, and this is what we do. So where we used to be mostly about extranets, external communities that were open, but we've seen a real resurgence in the way organizations want to redo their intranets. People are having these pajama-wear demands. I want my intranet to behave like Facebook. I want to be able to see what skill set someone has easily. I want to share this document easily. I want to be able to create a discussion without having to go through IT. I want to be able to change this program to support the marketing program I'm going to launch tomorrow. These are the demands that we're beginning to see, not only from the younger people in the organization, but even the boomers in the organizations who are leveraging things like LinkedIn and Facebook that are really easy to use. So the concept of having, when you sign up for Facebook, there is no tech support line, right? People figure it out, it's intuitive. And that's what they have the expectations for their solutions to be moving forward, right? SharePoint is a really powerful platform, but it's really, really hard to use. So that's how come you're beginning to see migrations off these really complex solutions to ones that are simple. And at the end, what's the art of true genius is making the complex appear simple, right? And that's what we're all about, trying to manifest these really powerful solutions that are very intuitive. And we're beginning to see lots of different members joining things. So for example, we have a board of directors community in our intranet that's accessible by Jim Basili, RBC. 5 years ago, no board of directors would want to go in the cloud to access the financials of the organization and put all the meeting minutes of the discussion. Now it's commonplace. They come to our meetings briefed. We use basically the activity and the ability to follow what they've done to see if they've actually read the presentation. So we know if Basili's read the PowerPoint, it's a different meeting than if we're just briefing him on what we thought he would be informed on. I mean, there's all sorts of tips and tricks you can use to make your day better just based on leveraging little simple features in the product. So I'm going fast because we have a short amount of time, but the cool thing about Igloo is we're cloud all the time. So what that means is we do not offer an on-premise version. We do not support multiple versions. We have one code base. That enables us to have product releases every 30 to 45 days, major releases. So something like SharePoint might have a release every year and a half. We're doing major releases basically every 2 months. So a couple of ones that have recently come up, is everyone using the new form functionality? Have you played with forms, ask a question, pose an idea? Okay, that's a great recent phenomenon, as was follow on documents. You're trying to engage boomers, get them to follow documents because they all want to know what's going on with their documents, especially if they wrote it. And you can follow any application or any asset in the tool. And it's just a simple trick, and I use it all the time because the things that I write, I like, it's kind of like, I guess it's a bit of ego as well, especially with researchers. They want to see people are downloading their stuff, and they'll say, oh, so-and-so went and looked at it. I want to see what he thought. I'm going to call him. So it does engage your community. We are thinking about putting the ability for the admins to make people follow things. That's on the roadmap, and it comes down to governance. just because, but one of the challenges, if you follow too many things, you get all these notifications and then the community's not effective. So it is a delicate line, but certain things like emergency management, you want people to actually have to do specific things. We're enhancing the things, for example, like custom profiles that actually came out. You can actually customize your profile page in the community now to have different things. And that was a requirement that came out of healthcare. Because in the US, the doctors in their communities wanted to make sure this guy was truly a plastic surgeon if he was basically responding to people's questions about plastic surgery. Because otherwise they're open to liability. And the ability to sync with corporate systems to suck in that official information so they actually have a true repository as opposed to someone on Facebook being able to put up whatever they want in there. Points and badges just was released. If you don't have it enabled on your community, you have to get it enabled, and Gary, I'm sure, will be playing with it. But it's a great way to enhance competition. It's all about gamification. Communities are all about, people like to play games. That's how come Facebook has done really, really well. They take a lot of game elements and apply it to getting people to join a community. So things, for example, you will also notice on profile, we will have a % complete, I think, in the next release. So of your profile, I don't know if you use LinkedIn, but your LinkedIn profile says you're 40% complete. Well, I knew when I was 60% complete, I still didn't feel whole, so I needed to go in there and get more information. So the great thing about that was anyone who's a contact of mine has the ability to go and look at more information about me. So once again, pulls them back to the community, makes it viral, makes it sustainable. Lots of cool things coming out as far as community analytics. So if you're using us for external sites, you can link to Google Analytics and see what pages and things are coming from. But one of the things where we knew we sort of fell down was the ability to see who are your #1 bloggers, who is your most followed person, what person's opinion seems to resonate the most with your target user. Those sort of analytics we will now basically, I think next month we'll be sending you reports. By the end of the year we'll have a full-blown reporting server where you guys can slice and dice your data and pull the extracts out as you see fit, right? So once again you can see, is this program working? Is it resonating with my target audience, both for private communities and extranet communities, which you have both. As mentioned, moderation is rearing its head. We're seeing a lot of it now just because of things like posting and governance. So you will see moderation, I think it's in the end of early July. And basically what that will enable to do is, for example, if you're on a public forum, for you to basically vet someone's blog or vet someone's post or comment before it goes public. Right, so we do have the ability to report abuse now, so self-governance, but the ability to have more formatted governance, especially on sensitive topics. Like, for example, Mental Health Commission is one of our customers, and they really want it for some of their forums because they don't want people making fun of, it'd just be a potential PR nightmare for them. So they're waiting on that end with great anticipation. Interesting for who's a Mac user? Anyone? So we are going to have the desktop client for Macs and support. We're also going down the HTML5 path. Because one of the cool things about Igloo right now is you have a preview capability, but it's in Flash. So if you're using your tablet or iPad, you can't get that nice rendering. So, so in anticipation of just the penetration, we're making sure we globally have great fidelity across all the tablets and platforms. And that's just a matter of just getting these things done. So you'll have one desktop client that supports 32, 64-bit iPad, Windows environments. So it'll make Gary's life infinitely easier because he won't have to say no to you. And also microblogging. Anyone use Yammer or Twitter? So we'll have embedded, auditable, controllable microblogging within the community in the next release. So lots of great things. We already have the ability to communicate with a messaging feature, so we'll have 3 or 4 ways to message internally. And the reason why we want microblogging is it's all about demographics, community success. You have to understand who your target audience is and have it resonate with different messages to basically appease each one of them. So different sections for the boomers, the millennials, the Gen Yers. Just a quick funny anecdote. I was on the sales line about 4 months ago, and I get a call from the US from a large healthcare chain. And the woman says, "Hello, I need to talk to a millennial." I'm going, "You need to talk to a millennial? But why do you need to talk to a millennial?" Because my boss says only millennials get what this social networking stuff is about, and we can't buy from them unless they have millennials on their staff. And I said, "Well, who's your user?" Well, she says, "Well, our user, they're all like senior executives in the major healthcare chains across the US. Average age is probably 60. I'm going, "You don't need to talk to a millennial." right? And then she tried to understand, okay, yeah, now I understand the power of these great tools. And I think one of the things you love about the Eagle platform is, when you say you want to understand Wiki scares a lot of people, as does forums and blogs, especially when you're talking to boomers. So we call Wiki, we rename it, a lot of our communities do, called knowledge base, right? Because everyone understands knowledge management for who was working in the 80s and the great promise it had. Now we actually have the ability to turn it on. So once you understand who your target is, you basically name the convention or the application so it resonates with that target audience, or have multiple views of that asset based on a group, and it will be viewed differently. So, I mean, lots of questions, or Gary, I know I've probably gone over, so.
Yeah, we are a little over, so I can field questions for Dan, with any of the panelists, and afterwards I'll be around as well, and all day tomorrow too, if you're here. Question?
I'd like to know about redundancies, removal redundancies, and as Debbie mentioned, moving emails back and forth, and any speed reading applications to the documents that are in the knowledge base.
So we have global search within the document based on permissions, right? So you do have the ability to filter by document, by search, by type. One of the things that I strongly recommend if you want to get your boomers engaged who love email, use email-enabled forums and blogs. Because what that does is it basically sends them a trigger saying, hey, someone just commented on this post. They can respond via their smartphone with a comment, and that gets sucked into the community and is archived, right? As opposed to them having to log into the community, and then do something, because they're not going to do that. So we realize there's certain features. Another cool thing we've done for .trust, and I don't know if it's pertinent to any of your research programs, we now also have SMS-enabled forums and blogs. The reason why we did this in basically the third world, no one can afford a smartphone. So we actually have communities all over Africa and Southeast Asia. Everyone has a regular cell phone, and they SMS all the time. So now we have the ability to interact with the regular cell phone, where that information is captured and disseminated via, a much lower cost appliance. So just little simple tips and tricks depending on your target audience.
David?
Comment for Vanessa about getting content created on the site. The way I talk to organizations about getting in social media is guaranteed almost every office of yours will have a newsletter. And they're going to do the same writing for a newsletter, just when they finish their newsletter article, have to post it as a blog. And so it's the same amount of content. They're already doing it. They can post it with their own logo or their own branding. And then your community can, and I bet they email that newsletter out to each one of the other members within that. So just don't make them stop doing their newsletter, but just say, once you've written your newsletter article, move it over into a blog. They'll start getting comments back, and then they're going to abandon the newsletter.
Any more questions? Kent?
You mentioned something about enterprise integration.
Yes.
Very interested in that.
Sure, we have a Rust-based API. Our whole strategy is leverage and extend existing infrastructures. Because there's lots of great legacy solutions, and most people can't afford to rip them out. So we're saying, look, let's work with them and coexist, because it's just too prohibitive.
The piece that I'm interested in, though, is some of the middleware technology,
Okay.
Like identity management,
Yep.
access management.
Yep. So we integrate with LDAP and Active Directory out of the gate, and we've
We don't use Active Directory as the main tool. We're using SAML
okay. Yeah.
Federation.
Yeah, no problem. We've done proprietary, basically identity tools, and we basically give our communities access to the API and do the calls, and you can create the bridge, or we can do it for you.
We'd love to be able to sign up our community people into projects automatically and have them then automatically use their local credentials.
And inherit all the same permissions and all that sort of stuff, and populate the profiles. Yeah, yeah, we do that all the time.
And role-based access then as well. So you're doing that?
Yeah. Private enterprise, you have to do that, yeah. Okay. Yeah, all over the place.
Just a quick question, is the metadata that you're going to be adding to documents, is that including tagging?
Well, we have labels, which is sort of
Yeah.
different than tagging. I could get you some details on it. I don't know the exact. Okay. But one of the cool things, if you go to your community, there's a little console, there's a little here if you're an admin. There's two great assets there. One is the support site that has all the wikis, the blogs, and forums on all the latest stuff we've just released. But there's also request a feature. So 60% of our features, every release, are basically customer driven, right? Because we have that sort of velocity in it. I mean, Gary's seen the platform evolve massively since
There's been a lot of changes since we started using it. Okay. Well, we're pretty much out of time. Again, I'm around to take any questions if you're interested in more about the more granular detail about the tool and what we're offering from Orion in terms of O3 collaboration. I'm happy to speak with you. We have the reception awards presentation coming up at 4:30, so I won't keep you any longer. I want to thank our speakers, Debbie, Vanessa, David, and Daniel from Igloo. I really appreciate it. We have some lovely speaker gifts for you, so please don't leave before you receive those. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the program this afternoon and your day tomorrow.